So the real question is, can you bench 225?
No, you know to do that? We need to put that as the intro.
That's what I'm trying to do, man.
And then it cut off. Oh, is it recording now?
Well, everything is recording right now. So
Okay, so you got to
So the real question is, can you bench 225?
Dr. Evil. Yes, I can bench 225.
So let's try to relate that to Magento, eh?
Okay, I'm trying to think. How do we relate that to Magento? Okay, 225.
You need muscle to work with Magento?
Yeah, kinda.
So you did bench 225.
Yeah, it's physically demanding. Magento is physically demanding as well, emotionally as well. And when you bench 225, it's there's an emotional aspect to that as well. When you lift it up, you feel like the world is about to fall on you.
Then you feel proud, you feel happy, then you come to work and you're happy to work on Magento.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw any of the Marvel films, but Infinity Wars, when basically Thanos throws a moon at Iron Man, that's kind of what it feels like when you're lifting 225. A moon's being shot at you, and you just got to be the superhero to keep it up, right? And just push, and grind, and push some more.
So what's the next step?
The next step, well,
245?
Tony was running his mouth a little, so I think 260 is going to be the next step. One rep. I think maybe in September that can get done.
That's far.
Yeah.
You can do it better. You can do it sooner than that.
Yeah, but I might have another task to do before that. There's a certain someone that's been wanting to do an MMA match with me, so...
An MMA match, right?
Yeah, I'm prepping. Yeah, not this little
there's no
wrestling. I'm not into this...
there's no punch allowed.
Emasculated hugging. Let's do this fist to fist till first blood is drawn.
BJJ for the record.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly.
And that other person is me, actually, right? Actually, you've been challenging me for a long time.
Yeah, it's tough to get.
I'm sure you're practicing. You're practicing in
Well, the thing is,
in secret.
when I initially challenged, I didn't calculate that I had to leave for a few weeks on vacation to the other side of the world. And obviously, you can't train on the other side of the world as good as you can on this one. And so we got delayed and eyeballing a late summer.
So when are we doing? Where are we doing that?
I think there's a place in Boucherville.
No, it's in Belleuil.
No,
it's just after.
Place. I don't know. Maybe we'll.
Oh no, I mean at my place.
We'll rent a stadium, or we'll move around some desks here. We'll put some pads, and we'll make an event out of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
When?
Let's go for the end of summer.
It's on the record, so.
Huh?
It's on the record.
It's all good. This is supposed to be known. End of summer. I'll be ready.
Talk to me, man, about Magento. How do you like it?
So Magento, it's an e-commerce system. It's been around for a while, and it's basically a platform. So when you download and install it, you basically kind of have a functional storefront as well. Now, one of the issues is, do you need a developer? Do you not need a developer? Unlike Shopify, which is a SaaS, software as a service, where it's really kind of you sign in, log in, they take care of the hosting and everything, but your functionality is limited. Magento, you have more freedom, but you kind of do need a developer to get your website set up, and any customization you want afterwards obviously has to be done with a Magento. Now there is quite a bit. If you learn the manual and then you learn the system, you can do a lot yourself from the admin panel, but you can only do so much through that.
Right.
So it really is, when you look at Magento and comparing it to some of its competitors today, like particularly Shopify, which targets small to medium-sized businesses, it's the ease of use of Shopify versus the freedom of Magento. That's really the question any sort of business owner has to ask themselves when deciding on the platform. One's going to be like Shopify, a monthly fee, but stable, and that's what you pay. That's pretty much it. Magento is going to be you own your project. So you got to, if there's a bug in there, you got to pay your devs to fix it. If you want customizations, that has to all come out of your pocket pretty much. So back to the main point. What is Magento? So an e-commerce platform. So it's a storefront, and it has quite a bit of functionalities. It's highly customizable. So it's very good for especially medium to large scale businesses that have certain requirements. They want really custom shipping, stuff like that, or just stuff that you cannot do on Shopify.
Exactly.
It fits their business need, and it's been around there for a while, so it has a large community behind it. And it's free. It's free to get the actual, software.
Yeah.
But then obviously you got to pay for hosting and the developers.
Definitely more expensive than Shopify,
Shopify. Well, Shopify,
I mean, if you include your dev time.
Yeah, the thing is with Shopify is they're doing the Uber model, so they're losing money right now.
Yeah.
But because they get new rounds of investors every time, they're able to charge super cheap. But that obviously at some point has to turn.
Yeah.
And even now, the Shopify Plus, it's starting to run $2,000 a month plus.
Oh,
so
wow.
and plus a percentage of your transactions.
Oh, yeah.
They'll take a cut as well. So it's not so cheap anymore as it used to be.
Yeah, you have to pay somewhere for sure.
Yeah, you're gonna pay. Don't worry, you're gonna pay. The other thing you could probably also warn certain business owners when they go on Shopify. You have to realize when you put your website on Shopify, they kind of own it.
Yeah.
They could kick you off your platform if you don't like it. So if you're selling something that they don't like, they could always kick you off, and then your business is in some serious trouble.
Yeah, we had a client like that. How long did they give him?
They were given till I think December, and then they were their particular item
it was
that they
like
were
September, October, August.
Yeah, so I remember they came to us in the early summer or something, or at least when we started development.
They had a lot of time.
Yeah, they had a lot of time, but they was basically end of the year, and they were going to get kicked off Shopify. And had they ignored those warnings or something, they'd be in a lot of trouble right now. So, yeah, one thing about Magento you have to consider is you actually own it.
Yeah.
You host it yourself. You own it. You get someone to host it, but you choose the hosting provider.
Yeah, there's definitely some size of business that you shouldn't be. I mean, like if you're having an e-commerce website and you're not generating 100K, 200K, 300K, like Shopify is probably too expensive. Magento is probably too expensive for you, right? And because you will, Magento guys are expensive. And if you don't have one in-house, you're gonna work with a company like us, and it's very expensive. So you need to have a minimum revenue for sure to be considering Magento, and you need to accept that it's gonna cost you a lot of money to maintain and do the maintenance and server side and all of that crap, And if you start getting into it and you like the customization, you will probably get excited about it and want to do all kind of things, right? Like we see all the time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We have to be honest. Like, let's say if a client approaches us and they're obviously very small, we'll just tell them outright at the beginning, no, this is not the right, because not only are we just Magento developers here, we're also a bit of e-commerce consultants at the same time. Kind of, what is the best market solution for you? What are your options? What are your business needs? And we'll tell someone like a mom and pop shop, for instance, that doesn't have a huge amount of revenue that wants to go online or something. No, start with Shopify.
Oh, for
it's going to be cheaper. Build up your sales. Build up a client base, and then if you want, once you start making enough money to afford basically a developer, then you could transition over to Magento, because you could do more with Magento. You could customize it. And then the other thing kind of you were alluding to was people, they get excited about customizations and they just basically scope creep to the end of the day, and you have clients that maybe have a budget for a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 website, and what they kind of imagine in your head is basically they want to wake up in the morning, they want like a system that reads their brainwaves, and then it fulfills every order and everything is done for them and they go back to bed. And so sometimes what they ask for is like systems. I'm just like, that's like a $500,000 system you're asking for. That's like 3 devs full time throughout a year. The other thing you also got to be wary about is a lot of these companies, it would supposedly be cheaper for them to go in-house to get a Magento Dev. The issue is, Magento devs are not super common. It is a very difficult platform to do development on. So when you have young people coming out of university, no one knows what Magento is. You say Magento, they think a Magneto from the X-Men moving metal. Like, what is this Magento? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, not allowed to swear. What is this? Like, they don't know. So that's a challenge that Magento has, particularly their front end is
and do not put any developer with no experience to build something from scratch without training.
That kind of alludes also to another point, that we've had so many clients that have come to us, they have Magento systems and their in-house dev is not a Magento developer, but he's done something there. And then the worst case that we usually get is when their developer is good. Because when their developer is good but doesn't know Magento, he's good enough to find like at least a little enough hacks to actually make the system still work. So it kind of masks the issue that you don't have a Magento dev working on your system, and this is going to lead to catastrophe when you want to update, maintain, and the stability of your system. So that's the worst case that happens. And so many problematic projects we've inherited where the stuff that people do, just mind-boggling. Like, I didn't even know this was possible. I'm impressed actually when I get some of these projects.
They hack the core.
Hacking the core, but obviously you do an update that clears out. So to be honest, and a lot of people, the same thing if they outsource, it's going to be developers. They say, I did Magento. Yeah. Did they really do Magento? Like, what did they do? They downloaded it maybe. I'm a Magento dev now. You're really not. No. Unlike maybe a framework like Laravel or Express for Node.js, it's like maybe 2-3 weekends, and you could ramp up to somewhat competent in them. And they're all pretty much follow similar principles. Magento is a whole system on top of it as well. So you really got to learn it, and you got to learn also basically e-commerce as well. Yeah. So the whole field of e-commerce, people go and study masters on just studying e-commerce. So you got to learn that as well. So it's quite overwhelming to take in at first. Then they're not lying to you when it says it takes you about a year to get even decent at it. And they have Magento certificates. Yeah. Okay. Magento doesn't lie to you when they say, for the Developer Plus, you need like 10 years of experience to do it. I've seen the questions. You really need to be doing Magento for 10 years to get these questions. I mean, that just goes to show how deep the framework can go.
No, totally. And actually, there's companies that claims having like dozens and dozens of Magento guys. And it's actually very suspicious because there's not so many. I think just in the province, there's like 40 certified guys. Like, there's not so many. I mean, there's many that touched it, but not knowledgeable enough to say they're a developer.
You'll have also a lot of people will have storefronts in Magento. So what another developer will do is you have your Magento here, and then they'll have their custom ERP, CRM, whatever it is, and then what they do is they at least at the minimum connect with Magento. So they familiarize with the API of Magento, which is well documented. You're not really a Magento. I mean, great that you've worked with the Magento API, but I mean, at the same time, you can't call yourself a Magento developer if it's just you're interacting with the API, albeit that's a very good skill to have as well. Especially in the world of services, where it's really now these days, you got your storefront, you're going to have your CRM elsewhere, your ERP elsewhere, even if you have a PIM system somewhere else. I mean, overkill if you have all three, but and your mailing service. So, but to be an actual Magento developer, you have to have overrided modules, write custom code,
and there's nothing that is common in there. Any bugs you're gonna figure that you face are not standard. Like did Bruno told you about his form bug he had yesterday?
Yeah, he did. He did.
The value, like there was a 1.
I mean, that's the thing. So basically, you could get bugs like any other development project, your hover over bugs, your little JavaScript bugs, but man, Magento introduces its own sets of crazy bugs as well. So the framework itself uses aspect-oriented programming, so it's like you need dependency injections are thrown everywhere. So if you get a bug, sometimes it's very specific to the Magento framework. So one, you got to know how to debug these type of issues. Not very easy to do. And then if you could kind of look for support on the online forum, if there is no support on the online forum for that, it's like, okay, good luck. Where do you start? And you have to also realize the way Magento is set up, it's very modular. So people could be adding things, and they have their whole override system is designed in a way that, so like if someone gets an extension for, I don't know, sending out abandoned cart emails, like it added on the system, and in theory, it should not interfere with other modules.
In theory.
Yes. So that's why when you download a module, you could have, let's say, 20 extensions, well, let's call them, on your Magento website. They don't know about each other at all. They only see the Magento, okay? Now, the issue is, yes, the whole framework is designed so they don't kind of fight with each other ever, but when they do, and it happens, like if someone overrides basically in the global namespace dependency injection that another module will need, and then that explodes everything, and people don't follow the good practice. good luck tracing that bug. It's going to take time, and this is what clients don't understand sometimes, especially when they extension spam. Like they just buy, okay, I want this, that. Okay, but then something breaks. Okay,
which extension it is now?
Yeah, which extension is it? And good luck debugging it. It's like, especially if you don't get a good error log or anything, it could be rough sometimes, and sometimes clients need to be are not. But just to be honest, is more on us to also inform the client what they're doing, what are the potential risks, and explain to them the technical reasons why this would be difficult if something does go wrong if we do go this path. So maybe a better solution is, chill on the extensions and think of a more clean and less intrinsic solution.
Yeah, it seems to be in their belief system that you just go and buy a new extension and you install it and you can have 30, 50 extension, it's going to be fine. And it's rarely going to be fine. I mean, how many, just in your experience, how many, or from how many extensions did you started to see bugs interacting with each other, Well, real custom extension, not the one that comes with Magento, but...
Yeah, so another thing that maybe to clear the air is everything in Magento is a module. Even the core things are modules. So when you get an extension, it is also a module, but I call them extensions just from like a definition standpoint. So when I refer to module, yes, it could be and a module, it's something that does a specific task in the Magento system. But when I refer to like extensions, it's extra modules that you've added to the core as well. It's hard to say, really. It's more when the two modules are kind of trying to augment something in a similar field, particularly emails. There's a kind of famous bug in Magento 2, one of the 2.2 systems to one of the 2.2 systems, like 2.22 to like 2.27 basically, where by default it comes with some Amazon modules. And Amazon, it overrides an email, a class that's responsible for generating your emails. And it override it in the global namespace, and what ends up happening is for some reason that causes an error later on. So then your values for your email address and the person sending it, so like let's say the Jason at x.com, they resolve to null. So then basically when you send it, something depending on your hosting provider setup or your email service, they augment some sort of weird value to it, and that's just an example. And that comes with a fresh install of Magento. And that's like something. And so anybody else that tries to augment an email, well, this guy just ruined it for everyone. So you got to disable the module or fix the issue. That's a good example of one, and it comes in the core. But like with every version, keep in mind this is open source software. There always is some core bugs. We generally, because we see so many types of projects, we kind of know them off by heart. So when someone comes to us with a project like, install or upgrade this, okay, we're going to get them on 2.27, but we know all the bugs already associated with 2.27. Okay, your image isn't loading because you have a JSON error. Okay, I know exactly which file. There's an issue there. How do bugs still go through from release to Magento? I mean, it's a huge system. Even with the testing they do, they still go through. But the worst bugs are generally created by people, not even necessarily extension providers, because if you go to reputable extension providers, usually their practices are good because they follow Magento practices. And they're usually fairly competent, more or less. Not always perfect. But it's really when you have developers that aren't people that write extensions all day, start augmenting the system, that's when you come with the issues.
And actually there's a lot of provider of extensions, but not all of them has a good reputation. And still, I mean, people buy extensions from unknown people and not supported. So when you upgrade your Magento version and you have no new that extension doesn't have an update, you're kind of screwed on your new version,
so you're kind of highlighting another major issue. So let's take an extension and it does functionality Y, okay? It does something. So when you go on, let's say you kind of know, okay, there's extensions that does this, okay? You go online now, what a lot of people do is they say, okay, there are some reputable extension providers, example like Amnesty or BSS Commerce. These guys are very good at writing extensions.
Yep.
So, but you see them, okay, they're charging $150 for this extension. But I have Joe Blow, who released a GitHub snippet that does the same thing, and it's free. I just need to download it and then, shove the module in my file namespace or file structure, and then whatever app code, module name, and then bang, I'm good. And yes, it might work. It might work then. But your little $150 saving trick is going to cost you a lot later. One, it might possibly, the current version might have some bugs that you don't know.
Yep.
Let's use the Amnesty example. Like the Amnesty one probably is well tested, so usually it won't have bugs. And then the issue is now when you upgrade. This guy wrote as a side code of this code 6 years ago. You know how many times I've gone to a project, we've seen these code taken from GitHub that are 6 years old. Their last commit was 2013. I was like, okay, or 2012. I'm like, yeah, Barack Obama was president then, man. I think it's time to update here, guys. It's pretty bad. And the other thing is, if you have an issue with the extension, when you buy from a reputable provider, you could also ticket them, be like, hey, this is not working. Here are my credentials to my server. Explain the problem. They might say this, that, and they'll come in and take a look at them. You have some technical support. And further to that, it's then, yes, agree, the updating. They provide, most of these places provide lifetime updates. Usually they're free, the lifetime updates. And then additively as well is, again, following best practices. Yep. If you buy from reputable companies, they'll usually offer a Composer install. So to manage the software, it's really Composer require, whatever you need to put in to get that in particular module. And then if you ever want to update in the future, it's okay. Edit your Composer JSON. Usually you don't need to because it has the little chapeau in there. And then Composer update and you're good. And then not only that, it goes in your vendor file, which is kind of enforces you to never actually touch the core or modules, which obviously we don't do. But my God, if other people had that, maybe it would really sink in the idea, please don't ever edit the core or edit the extension, because you update it and everything's gone. There's a complicated structure that takes a good amount of time to learn to do it well, but it's there for a reason. So follow it.
Yeah, no kidding. Talk to me about 2.3, because about a few weeks ago, not 2.3, sorry. 2.3. 2.3 came out, right?
Yeah,
After
it came out in,
2.7.
I don't recall.
And I remember you told me there was
January
a couple good things in there.
Yeah, they added some sort of a multi-inventory system. I haven't had a chance to really read up on that or use it yet. Client hasn't had a need for that yet. Yep. They changed now that they added that within XML, because they're big on XML in Magento.
Right.
Like they want everything be declared in XML. So they added now when you do your setup scripts in Magento, you can now do them in XML. I learned this the hard way because when I was setting up an extension, basically a custom module for a client that I'm still working on their project. It's a pretty big one. It doesn't really say anywhere in big bold letters. Well, by the way, in 2.3, the right way to do your setup scripts is using XML. So I'm doing it the old way. The script and big PHP file and setup installer here, and then create the columns, create blah blah blah, this that. And no, then I eventually found, I'm like, man, this isn't working so good. I mean, what's going on here? And then I'm like, I stumble upon, by the way, in 2.3, it's use setup.xml or whatever the file name is. And no, it's actually cleaner. Surprisingly, I liked it. Sometimes, developers are hesitant to change because you're not what you're used to or comfortable with. Yep. It would have been nice if I knew that just before I started. Why is this not working? That would have been nice to know. But so they changed a few things like that. But it's like, it's not just the fact is you always kind of want to be. Okay, to be honest, what I would recommend is 2.3. So obviously, because it's going from 2.2 to 2.3, there's going to be some bugs. There's no question about that, and there has been. But the community is, like, for core bugs, usually the community is pretty quick at solving them. And then what most people usually do is they wait for 2.31. Because those initial bugs that people find are patched by the core team in 2.31. So 2.31 is out now.
I was going to tell.
Yeah, so basically 2.31 is out now. And I think you're kind of leading up to a point where why it's important to stay as updated as you can to
Yes.
the latest version.
Yes.
Because let's just say that if I now need to upgrade, let's say I don't touch this website that's on 2.31. You come back to me in 8 months and we're on 2.35.
Yeah.
Going from 2.31 to 2.35 is not that bad. Patch a few things might
Yeah.
change, update a few extensions, and most of them won't need to be updated. And that's it. You're good to go. You've given me a day, depending on how many things need to be changed, maybe a day, 2 days tasks.
Right.
But now if you had a system that was 2.18 or 2. I don't know if 2.1 or whatever it went up to, it was 2.1 something, and now you want to go to 2.32.
Yeah. Actually, yeah.
Everything needs to be patched. Custom code, your extensions, and then that's when you go to your extension and you realize, you took Joe Blow's code from GitHub and he doesn't have an update.
There was a client I was dealing with a few weeks ago who I think it was like 2.167. I don't know. I can't remember. Then we had to do an upgrade. I'm not even sure we went to 2.27. Was way too far. Like we had to do a couple like that, but no matter what, if you go from 2.1x to 2.2x or 2.2x to 2.3x, it's definitely more challenging than going from 2.31 to 2.32. As an example, So if you don't do this as you go, for sure, eventually it's going to cost a lot of money to do the whole migration.
Yeah, especially a jump from 2.1 to 2.3. So what I recommend for most merchants is that at the very minimum, when a new a new level comes in, so the second digit really, upgrade then. Because if you ever want to then do upgrade in the future, it's going to be rough. And obviously you want to upgrade because it's not security features. It's huge. I mean, if your website ever gets compromised with hackers, you could lose your business. It's that bad.
Yeah.
The latest features and stuff, and it's the most, you generally see.
And most extensions are compatible. If it's 2.2x, they're compatible for most versions during that 2.2x, right?
Yeah. So extensions providers sometimes put like a little note, we're compatible with 2.2x. So in theory, every version of 2.2. But also Magento kind of has rules what they augment. Like what can they change in the versions of 2.2? Yeah. Because if they do some changes, that's like, no, that's a whole different. You've gone from you're not doing a 2.2 to 5 to 2.26. You're now doing like a 2.2 to a 2.3 thing.
Right.
And kind of extension providers know this. So that's when they say, oh yeah, we're compatible with 2.3x, because they know their code that touches anything in the core or anything, they know low chance or not possible that can be edited.
Right.
And there's service contracts everywhere, so it's kind of taken care of. So like order attributes, for instance, Magento could change a bit the logic how they handle order attributes internally. Mm-hmm. But for any extension that wants to attach custom order attributes to that, it's the get extension attributes function. It's that's going to never change. So unless they do something really messy, it should not mess too much. Right. Magento is, to be honest, it's how do I say this? It's tough on developers, but it's like some object-oriented purity.
Yes.
It's like if your nerdiest professors in university got together and they had a child, it would be Magento.
Right.
It's like, but it comes at a cost.
Yeah, for sure.
And particularly that front end, which they said is going to be changed soon, but that's probably 2-3 years away.
Oh boy, okay.
They're going to get off their current little thing, and they're going to go with something more modern.
What they're supposed to change, and how they're
going to deprecate basically require JS. Amongst other things. So hopefully it's a full rework of their whole little architecture, block view, and template.
Yeah.
And they change it to a more like basically. Because you want to attract the young devs as well.
Right. People
coming out of school. What do they know coming out of school? React.js,
yes.
Vue.js, I know JavaScript. What's required JS?
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass. That's what it is. Lesser documentation. The errors are good luck if you ever require JS here. A lot harder to maintain. And a require JS is basically just what's responsible for loading your files. It's really knockout JS as well. That's the kind of the JavaScript framework they use as well. They also use prototype JS. So you got require JS, okay, which no one knows really how to use coming out of school, particularly, or if you haven't touched Magento. You got knockout JS. Anyone heard of knockout JS?
One time, a candidate told me one time.
Yeah, I mean, well, knockout JS. The only thing that's getting knocked out is you at the end of summer. And then it's like their whole. I don't necessarily hate so much their view block template structure. It's the layout part of it. There was a view block layout. The layout sometimes, because it's like when you have many extensions trying to like fight for, I want to override this layout, I want to remove this block, but this guy who was loaded before you removed this block or this container. It's very, very hard to manage. But hopefully they're just gonna go with a more API-based front end, where it's really you can have your own little custom front end and you're just pinging whatever data you need from a route, basically.
They didn't give any detail yet?
No, so they said Knockout JS is going to be deprecated eventually, but they're looking at maybe 2-3 years to do it. Because you got to keep in mind, when they started development on Magento 2, they weren't React.js was still in its infancy.
Right.
So at the time, Knockout JS wasn't necessarily a bad solution, albeit that no one knows it, except for Magento developers.
Exactly.
And then they cry about it.
Makes me feel. Reminds me. Has nothing to do with it, but it still reminds me how sometimes those bugs can be crazy. Remember, we had a client. Actually, I think you were involved. Yeah, you were involved in it. Obviously, there was some weird server side error, and we've been looking at it for days with a few guys until we realized it was an option. I think it was persistent cart or something like that. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. It was, for some reason.
And it had nothing to do with the error, really.
Yeah, so that was, the glory of the, was it 502 or 503? And there's I don't know. We're still not 100% sure, but the persistent cart, I guess it deals with the cookie and some JavaScript stuff. So, there was no inclination at all that was the issue. It's one of those. That's the thing. Every now and then again, you get one of these bugs that are just like, dude, what are you coming from? It's like, you don't make sense. The error message I'm getting. And then when you ever do find the solution, it's like, how on earth would that, like, whatever you were seeing, that kind of, because it's a bit like when you're doing development work, it's a bit like you're an investigator as well. Yeah. You kind of got to think, okay, what's going on here? What can possibly cause the issue? How do I debug this? Okay, I'm going to try this, that, in priority of what I think is likely the culprit. And you get better with this, with the knowledge of the system, how good you are as a developer, and simply sometimes just your experience. Like, I've seen so many bugs now, I know where to look right away. But that one was that
was a hard
Every now and then we get one of these curveballs that are just like, how?
Yeah.
Like, why?
But actually, yesterday, Bruno. I mean, I'm kind of now the guy who gets vent by Bruno when he's having a bug. And
Bruno venting about something?
Yeah.
Unheard of.
Well, when I'm driving home.
Unheard of. Never heard of him.
But
what a humble guy. Never would assume this. Never would assume this.
He was telling me that I think it's a client or one of client's employee or whatever recorded a video of what was the error, and he was like, okay, and just tried, and no, it doesn't, I can't reproduce the error, to a point where he's like, okay, I'm gonna freaking do exactly every little thing she's doing, and she's clicking this field, and then fill the field, okay, then second field, third field, she's not clicking outside that field before clicking submitting, and he's like, click submit and then reproduce the bug. And the bug was coming from when you don't click outside that single field. So imagine if he hadn't got that video of the bug, he would have never found it.
Oh yeah, that's like so common. Someone will describe a bug and you just simply cannot reproduce it, and just if you can't reproduce a bug, where do you start?
Well, that's it.
It's like, okay, I could try looking. I gotta kind of reproduce it to be able to, analyze it,
or at least have something to start.
Yeah,
with,
something
like
to go
an
off.
error or
it's
something. Like
It's like you said, investigators. You're starting off a murder that you can't find or something. You can't find the body. Witnesses.
There was
all you know was an alleged. He said this happened. He said this happened. Okay, so this person was killed here. Okay, there's no body, no videos, no witnesses, and you don't reproduce murders like you do try to reproduce bugs. But I think the principle is roughly the same.
Well, actually, you said it. You guys are investigators, right?
Yeah.
And
I call ourselves Navy SEALs, but investigators will fine.
Well, yeah, a Navy SEAL that bench.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously,
exactly.
And but sometimes it still happen even today that a client or someone, the one who's paying the bill, obviously, gets annoyed because, let's say, someone spent 2 days on trying to solve a problem. So how come are you spending 2 days? It cost me a fortune to find that little field bug or whatever. But thinking and investigating on in development, whether it's Magento or any other type of software, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. I had a client, actually, I don't do that often, but when I can help someone myself, I do it. And there was anyway, I'm not going to give detail, but this happened, and there was a problem with uploading something. So I go on the server and search the thing. It took me about 2 hours to find it because, anyway, had to investigate it, then enable debug, and then, okay, that must be that. Try it. And the guy complained to me that it took 2 hours. And actually, I didn't even log 2 hours. I logged an hour and a half just to be nice, and still was complaining about 1 hour and a half for that little bug that seems to be super small, right? So there's a lack of education, and it's hard actually even for us to educate clients that they should be here full time and see how things goes, because it takes a lot of time to investigate and think, and and a guy like you, I know you go to the bathroom and you're still thinking about that freaking bug, and
and it's and basically, it's even worse is because there's looking for a bug on code that you've written, you're somewhat familiar with, and then there's sometimes looking for a bug, an issue, or a modification someone wants to do on code someone else has written. So a good example of this is a lot of clients that come to us, they've already had development work done on their website, and they come to us because it's usually bad. And they're like, okay, this person messed up our website, or this is not working, it's taking forever. But then they come to us and we could see, okay, this was done terribly. This is bad Magento practice. These are clearly not Magento devs. But then they complain to us too, and they're like, okay, but can you change this, and that? I'm like, yeah, sure. But they don't understand. It has to take me time to understand what these people did. And oftentimes it's really hard to understand spaghetti code. Yeah. So it's like, and they're like, oh, well, you took you this long or this long. The other guy did it in, an hour less. He also wrote the code. I have to figure out what this guy did, and it's
he was on it for 2 years.
There's like 12 different files I have to trace here too, and I got my breakpoints in like 40 different spots. I'm like, what do you mean? I have like 2 sheets of white paper where I've written down values, and it's like to be honest, the clients, maybe the population in general doesn't really understand. The non-developers don't understand the development process or development work at all. You've had sometimes bugs that might stump someone for 1 to 2 days, and it ends up being a line that gets changed. Literally a line. That's just the nature of web development. Until people start writing a lot cleaner and better code, so bugs are always going to exist. And also a lot of times bugs are created when people don't take into consider the high-level architecture of the system. What is doing what? You've created a deadlock situation, or those are sometimes the hardest high-level bugs, especially. Wow, those are tough.
Yeah, and like the Bruno thing we were talking about. I was driving you home for about 40 minutes or so, and we've been talking about it all the way there. So he was still thinking about, and just using his venting to try to stimulate his brain. The next day he comes in and says, I think I found it. Then try, so it's not the amount of, it's not during the work day actually only. It just follows you at home. It's especially if you're obsessed by it.
Yeah. I've had some bugs that have followed me home, and it's not too fun.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, especially when we inherit particularly projects
Yeah.
that were by other people, man. I have sympathy for LeBron James when he was with Cleveland in his last season. His teammates were terrible, and he was the only good player. And that's kind of how I feel when we inherit a bad project. So sorry, LeBron, if I ever hated on you, but
So Jason James.
yeah, sorry. I understand now. He'll get back to me on Twitter about that. I'm boys with him. Yeah.
Well, cool. And yeah, I think that covers a lot of things with Magento 2.3 and your benching level also.
Yeah, 225.
225.
Three
so
times. And I had
225.
done chest earlier that week. I wasn't chest day at all. It just happened to be that because Tony was talking a lot of smack, I had to coordinate it to get two friends there, one to just spot, not that I needed it, I could have done it with one, and then one to record, obviously, and it happened to manage. There was two people that I knew.
Well, you
at
see,
the
Tony
gym.
did that for you.
Yeah.
That gives you pressure just to
Yeah.
do it, and
I mean, pressure is usually for something that's hard to do. This was, I've done it before, so it wasn't going to bother me at all. But I was a little bit shocked that a lot of people in the office didn't believe in me. But
yeah. Well, we didn't see your face, but we still don't know if it was
Leo
you.
did, though, and he's the most important person at the company. So if I have Leo's approval, I believe in life.
You feel
I'm
good? Okay.
Yeah.
And he's a Brazilian, so now Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is going to be
Yeah,
your next
yeah.
challenge.
Yeah, I mean, he's black belt. Okay, don't mess
Leo?
with Leo. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, don't mess with him.
There's no Brazilian here that I met that did jiu-jitsu. That's the funny thing. You have to be a Canadian to do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And Leo doesn't even watch soccer, so
Oh boy, he's a bad Brazilian.
yeah. Don't tell him I said that. He just knows Neymar. That's it. Yeah. Sorry, Leo. Secrets exposed.
That's good.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. It really means a lot to us. And it would mean even more to us if you would just hit that button, smash that button, like that button, punch that button, flick that button, lick that button.
Whoa. Phrasing test. Just click on that button. Please subscribe. It would mean a lot to us. And please comment, whether on YouTube or Twitter. Let us know what you thought.